It's KJ Carson on WEEI.
Well, finances are not better, but again, I'm not going to talk about specific financial parameters or our budget. What I will tell you is the revenues that we generate from the Boston Red Sox are reinvested into the Boston Red Sox baseball operation. This is not a profit-oriented business, the baseball business. This is a responsibility, a stewardship by John, Tom, and Mike to do everything they can to put a winning, great product on the field, and that will continue in 2024.
Second hour WEEI with KJ. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday here. And maybe this just might be just a nice distraction of, the Celtics being up by damn near 50 against the Golden State Warriors. At Sam Kennedy earlier this week on the Greg Hill Show, talking with Chris Curtis about the finances around the Red Sox. And what I'll say this. Sam Kennedy wasn't blowing you smoke. And something hit me, and it's kind of tied to this industry that we're in. Broadcast. See, when you're a broadcaster or you provide entertainment, you look at the overall market as a whole, right? And then from there determine what's the viability of said product on a field or in a theater, or how many movie theaters you have in a market based on your population and their movable cost, right? So we all discuss here that New England is one of the richest regions in the country, a lot of old money. If you want to know how Hollywood is invented, just ask one of your old relatives, that was in their 40s, at least in the 1950s, and they tell you that they know a few people that cut a check or two. Yeah, L.A. is only exists because a lot of rich New England money. But as time goes on, so do demographics and their shifts and how you make these determinations. Okay, so just metropolitan area, some places you'll have to ignore. So, for example, if I mention San Francisco, it does recognize Oakland as its own metropolitan area tied to like Richmond, California, stuff like it's a bit in the woods, but this is getting to the point of why you can't keep thinking that the Yankees and the Red Sox are in the same ballpark just because they're in the same division. Metropolitan area 1, New York. Los Angeles 2, Chicago 3. This is viewing, not necessarily radio. Dallas 4, Houston's 5, DC 6, Philadelphia 7. Atlanta 8, Toronto 9. Watch that. Miami 10. That's where Boston. Detroit 11. San Diego 12. A couple of Mexican cities. This is based in North America. Phoenix 13. Boston 14. The Inland Empire, which is really east of Los Angeles, 15. Here's what I'm telling you. Boston at 14 is closer to 20 than they are to 5. So look, Yankees, about 20 million people in New York City. So if you wanted to have a $200 million payroll and said everybody in New York City's got to put money down, the exact amount would be $10. LA, $15. This is everybody. And keep in mind, everybody doesn't go. Chicago, $22. I'll just go ahead and fast forward to Boston. $40.80. If you wanted to have a $200 million payroll for the Red Sox, and you say, okay, we want everybody in the Boston, which includes Worcester, it also includes Manchester, New Hampshire, as part of the area. $40 per person. And if someone doesn't go, then someone's got to pick up the $81. So when you hear people say, oh man, they made all this money and they have the highest ticket prices. Well, there's your identity of why the ticket price kind of starts relatively high. If you're going to say, if every person in this market is going to be responsible, I'm not talking about living in Boston, just inside the city, I'm talking Worcester, everything inside and just outside the nuclear shell. $40.80 per person for everybody. And everybody ain't going. So Sam Kennedy's right. It is not necessarily this big for-profit business. He's right. What they're worth is really what someone's willing to come pay. Not what you see on paper now. That's all accrued over the years. Now, at one time, Boston, I think, used to be the 5th largest market in the country, but how many decades ago was that? Population shifts have changed. Phoenix has suddenly come out of nowhere, it seems. Phoenix is massive now. Boston, we've got people leaving. It's too cold. People keep doing that over generations. Numbers start to dwindle. And the price to get high-price free agents doesn't make so much sense. So if you told me which of these teams would most likely to make a deal to go get C.J. Cron, would it be Detroit, Miami, the Diamondbacks, Seattle? Because all of those teams are within 3, going one way or the other of the Red Sox. This is why I'm not surprised. See, history is only historic. Now is now. So in the division, outside of Baltimore, every single team in the major, outside of Baltimore and Tampa, Tampa is smaller, obviously, than Boston. It's like 19th. Toronto, New York. Gosh, who am I thinking? I can't think of the other team right now. I've been here a while.
Just those two, and then Baltimore and
then
Tampa.
Baltimore, then you get to the smaller ones, right? So, if anything, on that math, Boston would be behind Toronto and New York in spending just in the AL East. Who are they behind in spending in the AL East? Toronto and New York. A lot of it has to do with size and moving populations. Look at the NL Central, if I want to use an example. Outside of Chicago, St. Louis is small, Milwaukee is small, Cincinnati is small, Pittsburgh is small. What results do you usually get from them? Small. Limited. Diamondbacks, they're a small market team. Not what I just told you right here. They just happen to catch the wind in the sail at the right time, and they are a type of team that could turn around and say, okay, maybe we start spending a little more because we have growing demographics. I mean, look, the Dodgers, the way they could spend, they're number 2. Chicago, I think that's more of a choice. Look what the Rangers have just done in Dallas. The Astros, look what they do. DC, you can't really count them in because they're still trying to figure out if they're really committed to baseball. Look what the Phillies always tend to do. They spend. Atlanta spends. Toronto spends.